So let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to start here with the candidates that are here for the 2nd Congressional District. And we're going to start with you, Nick, and if you just don't mind stating your name.
Nick Mitchell.
CASSIE EASLEY.
All right. Chris Stewart was unable to be here, but there is a statement that has been submitted in advance. I believe Charlotte is going to read that.
Okay, Congressman Chris Stewart has spent his life defending America. First as an Air Force pilot flying the B-1 bomber, and now as a member of Congress. Chris grew up farming on his family ranch with 9 siblings. He is a former business owner, national security expert, and fierce advocate of limiting government overreach. His record and military experience landed him on 2 powerful committees, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and the Appropriations Committee. Having an appropriator from Utah gives our state the best opportunity for input on federal projects that benefit our state and municipalities. Recognizing that suicide and mental health has risen to unacceptable levels, Congressman Stewart wrote, sponsored, and passed the Suicide Prevention Act, which created a 3-digit suicide hotline nationwide and has already helped over 150,000 people since its launch 75 days ago. Chris is a New York Times best-selling author, having written and published over 20 books. The greatest blessings in his life are his wife, Evie, 6 children, and 16 grandchildren.
All right, and we understand he is in Washington, D.C. and unable to participate. Jay McFarland was also invited to participate. I understand he's not here, but and also did not submit a statement. Okay. Let's move on to the questions then, and you each get 1 minute to respond. The question is, if a future federal funding opportunity were to surface to bring funding to Westside Salt Lake City communities, what projects would you advocate for and why? Let us start with Nick Mitchell.
The projects I would advocate for on the west side would be getting a train system out here so there's more public transportation and we can get to and from the city a little bit easier, because right now these roads are pretty congested and I experience it quite a bit having to travel up and down the state because this district is so large. And so I think we need to focus on public transportation.
All right, CASSIE EASLEY.
Since this is my first time up north, part of District 2 that I'm from is in the southern part of the state, and I am just now coming up here to find out the issues, and this is my first night here, so I am unaware of what the needs of Westside would be, but I would gladly listen to what they are so that I would be able to intelligently decide what it is that you needed by your input to be able to get you what you would need.
All right. Next question. How would you work to reduce political polarization and gridlock in Congress and build consensus on solutions to pressing issues in our country? CASSIE EASLEY.
I believe that having someone that is neutral would be able to help break the deadlock that we have in our country, because the Republicans and the Democrats seem to be always at odds. And being from a third party, I believe that I could be much like a mediator so that we can bring things to a more constitutional decision rather than people fighting all the time.
Mitchell.
This is one of the biggest problems in Washington right now, is this extreme partisanship. And it's not one side or the other, it's both. And what we need to do is realize that these problems don't care what political affiliation you belong to. And it's our job as public servants to come up with solutions that help the American people. And the way that we do that is focusing on facts and data and making logical conclusions based off of those facts and data. Therefore, we can come to a pretty common consensus on what needs to happen, and there won't be this infighting, this extreme partisanship anymore. And also being friendly helps, just being a good person.
Thank you both. Next question. What, if anything, should the government do to reduce the role of money in American elections? Let's start with Nick Mitchell.
This is honestly one of my biggest pet peeves in politics, is the money that is required to run a campaign. I don't think corporations should be in politics. We're not there as public servants to serve corporations. We are there to serve the people. And one of the first pieces of legislation I want to put forth is getting PACs, super PACs, corporations, all out of Washington. And I mean, it's going to be hard to get passed, but I will work tirelessly to get it done. I also believe that insider trading, or politicians trading in the stock market, should not be allowed. I think it is against the law, and they've gotten away with it for too long.
So I agree with a lot of what he said. I do believe that when we have these political action committees and these big corporations giving money to specific candidates, it indebts them to these corporations, and the candidates would have an obligation to help pass legislation to do that. And I think that corporations and PACs and things like that really need to go away as well, so that the individuals that are running for office have a fairer playground than what we do have now, because we do not have the big money coming in, but we also don't have an obligation to people that are giving us big money.
All right, we are going to our next question here, which is super fast. Yes or no? Just a one-word answer. Do you support the reduction of the U.S.'s dependence on fossil fuels and investment in renewable energy sources? We'll start with Cassie EASLEY.
Question real quick.
Of course I can. Yes or no, do you support the reduction of the U.S.'s dependence on fossil fuels and investment in renewable energy sources?
That's hard because there's two sides to it, but I'd have to say no.
Nick Mitchell.
Clarifying question real quick.
I apologize, but this is the question that was submitted by the Westside Coalition. These are not my questions. These are questions submitted by constituents.
Can you repeat it one more time for me?
Of course. Do you support the reduction of the U.S.'s dependence on fossil fuels and investment in renewable energy sources?
Yes, I support the reduction of the use of fossil fuels.
All right. Last question here. You all made it through the lightning round here. Last question. We would just like to kind of a get to know you. If there is a particular quote or something that you reflects your beliefs, values, or priorities, or in the alternative, is there someone who inspires you and inspired you to get into public service? 15 seconds for each of you. We're going to start with Nick Mitchell.
Someone that inspired me to get into politics, who I have an extreme amount of respect for, is actually John McCain. He always did what was right for his constituents and for his people, and I have a great amount of respect for that, even when things would go against his party.
Cassie EASLEY.
I guess what inspired me to run for Congress was I was at a Liberty conference, and Kate Dowley asked the question, do you know who stood up behind Rosa Parks on that bus? And nobody had an answer, and she said it's because he didn't stand up. So I wanted to be someone that stood up.
All right, thank you both very much, and the candidates are available downstairs to answer any other questions you may have. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. And we will take a brief break while we set up for the next candidates, which is House District 21, Sandra Hollins and David Atkin.